Good evening, everybody. It's Apex to Asphalt time for March 30th, 2026. We had a lot of on-track action last weekend. MotoGP was in Texas for the United States Grand Prix. NASCAR was in Virginia for the racing in Martinsville. Formula One went to Japan, and oh boy, are we going to get to that. IndyCar was down in Alabama at Barber Motorsports Park, while Supercross was in Detroit. We'll briefly recap all of those races and get into the trending topics of the past week. Then we're going to prepare you and ourselves for what will be an exciting finish to the 2026 snowcross season in Duluth. And finally, we open up the calendar, take a look ahead at the weekend, and give you some things to watch, which, going into the Easter weekend, spoiler warning, is not a lot. Freddie B of the Racelets podcast and Bases Loaded will be on in just a little bit. We're going to talk IndyCar, but before we do that, we're going to pay some bills. We'll be right back after this.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
Welcome back. So it's me all alone this evening for Apex to Asphalt. Chris will be back next week. But before we get to that, we do have a guest. Bracelets Podcast is going to be joining us in just a moment. But before we get to all of that, of course, we will be doing our Motorsports Roundup. That's a review of all the racing we saw this weekend. In MotoGP, Marco Bezzecchi picked up his 5th consecutive win, a streak that started last year in November 9th, 2025 in Portugal. Bezzecchi, on his way to victory, also set a new MotoGP record for most consecutive laps led in 121 laps. And the way that Aprilia is going, that laps led streak is going to continue to rise as we get back to MotoGP racing later on this month. Formula One had controversy on their hands heading into the weekend after making a rules adjustment for qualifying, but the conversation after the race on Sunday was purely about a near miss for Ollie Behrman and substantial rule changes needed on the electrical power to the Formula One cars. That race would have been won by Kimi Antonelli. Alex Palou would not be denied a victory at Barber, though it was Scott McLaughlin's crash in practice that stole the headlines this weekend in IndyCar. While Cole Davies continued to show why he is one of the best in the business, while Ken Roczen made a statement win to tell Lawrence and Tomac that he is still here and capable in the Monster Energy Supercross Championship standings. Finally, Denny Hamlin dominated Martinsville early, but a gutsy call by Alan Gustafson put Chase Elliott in position to win the Cookout 400, picking up his first win since September 28th, 2025. If you are watching us on X or YouTube this evening, drop a comment or a question and we will respond in real time. And we want some audience participation tonight. We want to know your driver of the weekend. Drop that in the chat. And at the end of the day, at the end of the show tonight, we will tell you the driver of the week for chat this weekend in Apex to Asphalt. And now that we've reviewed the races, it's time to talk about the storylines of the weekend and welcome in my first guest, Freddie B, who does way too much around here. He has his own podcast, the Raceless Podcast, with his daughter. He's going to be on Bases Loaded later on tonight, which you can watch right here on YouTube on IE Sports Radio. And he's here to talk all things IndyCar and the race that we just had in Barber Motorsports Park. Freddie B,
hey,
welcome in, and what a race down there at a beautiful Barber Motorsports Park.
Well, first, Darryl, thanks for having me on again and talking IndyCar with you guys here on Apex to Asphalt, a great motorsports show that we have here at IE Sports Radio. And yeah, like you mentioned, it was a beautiful weekend in Barber. Cooler temps. I think they were in the 50s for the most part down there, and made it for a really good race. But it was almost like I watched the repeat of what happened the previous year. Like you mentioned, Alex Palou dominates, captures pole. Last year, he led 81 laps. Yesterday, he led 79. They got very close, and it was up in the air for a minute or two whether or not he would go on to win this race, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure. But domination again for Ganassi's and their dominance at Barber.
So we'll get started with our IndyCar conversation by flashing back to Friday. Scotty Mack had a scary crash in practice where the car got underneath the catch fence, got stopped by the tension in the fence. I saw a comment mention that it was kind of like an aircraft carrier arresting wire that stopped that car. Kind of a very scary incident.
Scary, Darryl. Okay. Yeah, very scary. The way he was coming in at such fast speeds, right there, right off of turn one, right, and got into that grass area and spun his car, went into the retaining wall backwards. Thank goodness that wire fencing was there to protect Scott Mack, because if you look just beyond that, it was a little bit of a slope of a downhill. He could have launched his car down, done some very serious damage to the vehicle, but to his body as well. And thankfully that he walked away from that injury free. But like you mentioned, Scotty had dominated there 2 years ago. He had won back-to-back. And I was expecting him to do something good again this weekend. Unfortunately, it didn't really go his way. But we'll see. We'll see Scott hit a podium here shortly. I know we will.
Yeah, they Penske Motorsports, they have been improving this year. I do not expect them to finish off the podium like they did this weekend, and for kind of the other than our racing there in St. Petersburg. But it's still early in the season. We are heading into April, and of course, when May comes around, the captain's going to want his cars right up front there at the Indy 500. But we'll get into the race on Sunday. And I've actually been to Barber Motorsports Park. Wasn't for a race weekend. That is a beautiful facility. I got to see the Porsche Experience cars on track.
Oh, very nice.
And it is a technical, free-flowing course in just a beautiful park setting. Doesn't lend itself for a lot of side-by-side racing, but it challenges the drivers. And I think we saw that with how that race went, where it was more of a traditional open-wheel race where it went green to the end, and the strategy mattered.
Yeah, I mean, racing at Barber, the drivers describe it as being like a roller coaster type of racetrack. And as far as passing and stuff goes, Darryl, only turns 5 and 8 are really the main passing zones when there is side-by-side action. What you want to do, though, is keep your car on track and not venture off into the grass, because there are no runoffs, and that could loom big. It could end your weekend in short notice if you were to get off track. And luckily, we went 90 laps of green yesterday as well. But yeah, beautiful. It's a beautiful place. I would love to be able to go back there. The museum, with the motorcycles and all the classic cars and race cars and everything that they have at the museum there.
It is.
But they say, it's like the Augusta. They call it the Augusta of racetracks because of its beauty. And then the sculptures and everything like that. That spider, and No Georgina falling this year. They've secured her to the bridge up top. That was hilarious a couple of years ago when that happened right at Scotty Mac's car.
Hilarious to see that they come falling down.
That was nuts, right?
Yeah,
that was something else. But yeah, the racing was great. It really came down, and even the announcers on the Fox broadcast didn't know which way this was going to go as far as the tire allotment and the tire strategies. A lot of them at the beginning said it was going to be a black tire race, and it ended up being the softer compound alternate tires that everybody ended up deciding to go with. And yeah, if you make the right call, you're good. And we saw that a pit stop determined a potential winner in this race, a faulty pit stop by the number 7 crew of Arrow McLaren and Christian Lundgaard that was costly in his attempt to possibly win this race, Darryl.
And like I said, it's death, taxes, and Arrow McLaren in the clutch failing to execute on a clutch pit stop, and it cost them again. We've seen it over the years cost them win after win after win with Pato, and now it's Christian Lundgaard's turn.
Yeah, I know. They did some overhauling with the McLaren team this year as far as their pit crew members go. I know Pato Award's team had 5 new members, and I think some of the other cars as well had some new guys put in there. That they're not just rookies out there, but a tire change in the most critical moments, 25 laps left, 20 laps left, the last pit stop of the race. And Christian Lundgaard was on a burner. He had distanced himself further enough ahead of Alex where that way, when he did come into pit, that he was probably going to jump out still ahead. Unfortunately, a normal 7-second pit stop lasted 17 seconds. That was 10 seconds. And it ended up being, the end of the day for him. Back-to-back second place finishes, though, for Christian Lundgaard. He was able to overtake Graham Rahal with 2 laps remaining and jump from 3rd into 2nd. So,
and we can give Graham Rahal a kudos. First time since 2023, he's been on the podium, and he has struggled mightily over the last few years, and it's good to see him back on the podium, even if it's the 3rd place.
It was great to see him back, and I was rooting for him. We were rooting for him here at home, and you even heard Will Buxton on the broadcast saying, he's trying to be impartial being a broadcaster, but deep down inside, you really wanted to see Graham succeed and get back up to the podium. First time, like you mentioned, since 2023. His last win was back in 2017, so he's still looking to achieve a win, but RLL is starting to make some strides. We've seen how well that they've qualified this year in Phoenix with Graham and Mick Schumacher both qualifying in the top 4. And, the results weren't there for Foster and Schumacher this week. It'll get better. It's starting to get better, but just a relief for Graham. And he's been under so much scrutiny and if you don't produce results, you're going to get that kind of backlash sometimes from people out there on social media and whatnot. And he shut them up, and it was so nice. You can see the emotion, pouring out of him. He was there for, I don't know if Darryl, you watched the show that IndyCar has put on YouTube the last couple of weeks. I can't think of the name offhand, but it's a really good show. The first week they touched on Alex Blow. This last week they touched on Graham Rahal and Mick Schumacher, and really, he's a daddy's guy, just like I am. We've got daughters. He has 3. I have 4, and I could feel everything for him on that personal side as well, and for his kids to see him achieve and celebrate that's everything that you wanted to see for Graham.
And that's the big thing for the drivers. They want their kids to see them doing well. Especially when, they weren't there at the start. So they want to say, hey, daddy can throw down and do this. And I think a lot of the parents, they get a little speed boost from having the kids. I know with Graham, it hasn't been the greatest the past few years, but maybe this podium is what he needs to go forward and maybe get that elusive win again later on this year.
Yeah, we'll see. They've done really well at the Indy GP. That's going to be coming up in a couple of weeks after Long Beach. So we'll see if they can build upon that and continue this road course dominance, really, that they showed this past weekend. They had great speeds. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to hold off Christian long enough. I think he was on the black tires, I'm sorry, to end that race, and he just didn't have the rear end to hold off Christian. He did, however, was able to hold off David Malukas, who put a fight to him down those last 2 laps. And so, big props to Graham. You'd like to see him do well. And we'll see if they can continue. Long Beach coming up in a couple of weeks, back to a street course. We'll see what can happen.
So at the top step of the podium, Alex Palou, he had us worried there that he was going into a slump for a little bit, and I think some home cooking in Alabama and the Children's of Alabama Indy Grand Prix was just what he needed.
Yeah, it's a slump, right? He came in second the race prior in Arlington, so 2 wins
by his standards,
right? And who knows what would have happened with him in Phoenix if he didn't make that contact with Rinus VK, ending his day so early. He had made a push through the field. So 2 first place, 2 wins and a second place to start the season. Good on Alex. He is so good at Barber right there. And you talk about Chip Ganassi, Scott Dixon, another top 10 finish for those guys as well. He's yet to win at Barber, but his results are fantastic. So many 5s to 10s in there for Scott Dixon. His time's going to come. I think he's going to have a strong weekend at Long Beach as well.
Meanwhile, Will Power, he was the biggest gainer of this race, went from 23rd to 12th, but only 1 top 5 and 1 top 10 so far for Power to start the season, currently sitting 13th in points. Is there any concern, or are we just going to pump the brakes for now?
No, there's no concern. He just can't get through the qualifying without wrecking the car. That's what it is. When you're starting 23rd like he did this past week, I knew he had the car to move up through the field, and he showed that, being the biggest mover. And the same thing happened the last couple of races as well. He starts poorly and has worked his way through it. Now we talk about Andretti and their success at street courses. I like to see them get back on track. We know how good Kyle Kirkwood is already. And, him and Will and Marcus have both all been very good in Long Beach. We'll see what happens. I don't think there's anything you have to worry about with Will. His driving's just fine. It's just his starting positions. If he could be better and start higher, we'd see him finishing in the top 10, top 5, and possibly podiums.
Yeah, hopefully that qualifying can improve, especially at Long Beach, where it's kind of like Monaco, where a lot of the racing is going to be decided on Sunday or on Saturday in qualifying.
Yeah, we've seen Kyle Kirkwood
start.
Yeah, Kyle Kirkwood won there last year on pole, and the qualifying is huge. Remember, this year with IndyCar on street courses, though, you do have to run 2 sets of alternate tires. So strategy is going to come into play as well. It's also gone longer as far as the amount of laps go at Long Beach as well. It's going to be up to 90, I think, from it was at 82 or whatever it was previous. So we're going to get a little bit more racing action down here in Southern California.
Can't wait to see that. You're also going to have out there IMSA.
Yeah.
Is going to be racing there as well. Are you guys going down to Long Beach?
We'll be down there. Yes, sir. We'll be down there every day. I really enjoy the IMSA races that they put on down there. I like to see, Penske do the Porsche Penske team is so good with Felipe Nasser and all those guys. But, Tandy's been really good at Long Beach as well. He could possibly pull something out there. So I like to see that. They have the super trucks. They have a whole big weekend of stuff going on at Long Beach. And it's really a shame that, Darryl, that Jim McCallion passed away last week at the age of 83. And he had been with Long Beach since the beginning, 1976. And, this was going to be, I think, his 51st year before he was going to move on. Just a shame that he passed away. I hope they put a nice little tribute to him that race weekend coming up.
Well, hopefully. So we're getting ready to take a break. Freddie, where can they find you? And what you guys got coming up on the baseball show later on? I know my Nationals are currently kicking the crap out of the Phillies.
Yeah, they were up 7-0 last time I saw.
Yes, I'm happy about that, especially with the way we've been talking about this season.
Yeah.
It's nice for us to have a good start.
It is. Yeah, it is. And trust me, I think your Nationals aren't going to be as bad as you think they are. But we'll see. Yeah, it was. I mean, the first 3 or 4 days of the MLB season showed a lot of surprises with some of the youth in the league right now. Some guys making great debuts, good pitching again. The Dodgers are just as dominant. They look like they're on their way to three-peat already. And yeah, we'll see. ABS. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Automatic balls and strikes. And yeah, tune in.
That's been a show this weekend too. The ABS calls.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got a lot of talked about NCAA college baseball and college softball, and we'll try to get into the minor league side of things again tonight as well. So that's going to come up at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern.
All right, Freddie, thank you so much. And thankfully, you guys won't have to talk about any battery management in the baseball season and for IndyCar mostly.
No, Darryl, but I wanted your take real quick. I know you probably got to go for a break. The Martinsville race, I watched it yesterday, the NASCAR race, 30 laps to go, and there were no changes at all. How do you pass on a short track like that?
Usually you got to punt somebody, but with these cars being so hard to handle on Sunday, they really couldn't get up the speed to punt anybody. So it's tough with these cars. In short tracks, it's hard to pass anyway. And I think that's been the one Achilles heel of the next gen car is short tracks have been dreadful with it so far.
Yeah. I'd like to hear your take on that. I did like to see Chase Elliott win. I do like Chase Elliott, so that was nice to see him pick up a win there this Sunday.
All right, Freddie, thank you so much. We will be talking to you all IndyCar season long, and have fun tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Darryl.
So we're going to take a break. When we come back, the Moto USGP was this weekend, and we got to have a conversation about one of the GOATs of the sport. We'll talk about that on the other side of this break on Apex to Asphalt on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clinking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
We're back on Apex to Asphalt on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And I kind of misspoke earlier when I thought that Christopher Lehman wasn't going to be here. He has now joined us as we'll get Chris up into the show. Chris, good evening. And I wish we were talking about better things when it came to Formula One, which we'll get to here in a minute or so.
My audio okay?
You sound hollow for some reason. It sounds like your mic's not on.
How about now?
Much better.
Okay, perfect. Just had to bring it a little closer.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and get into first the Moto US Grand Prix that was held this weekend at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. As I said at the top of the show, Bezzecchi picks up his 5th straight win, 121 straight laps led, a new MotoGP record, taking that away from Marc Marquez, who currently is only 5th in points. Excuse me, allergies. And Chris, it feels like the only time we see him is when he's dropping the bike these days. What is going on with Marquez?
I don't know. I think maybe it's time to call him washed. Well, no, it's probably earlier for that, but yeah, I don't know. It's you get to that point sometimes. I mean, he's 32, 33, somewhere in that range. So I mean, he's not old, but he's not young either. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. It's still early in the season, but you know, he's 5th in points and he's dropping his bike every weekend. So that's not really good momentum to have.
No, it's not. And he had that injury last season that messed up his shoulder, put him out for the rest of the season. And he has been on record that injury is still not 100%. And the body just doesn't bounce back from injury as fast once you get to certain ages. Both you and I know it. We're getting up there in age. And we are also in our 30s.
Yep.
So, you know, those hits that used to go away in a couple of minutes, sometimes you still feel them about 20 minutes later. He's still feeling that shoulder from falling off a bike at 200 miles per hour.
Yeah.
That's going to be with you for a while. And he said it is he doesn't feel as confident to go hard at the start. And you can see that because during the start, particularly in Coda, he dropped like a stone, and that was even before having to do the long lap penalty. He went all the way back to about 11th, worked his way up at the end of the race, was able to finish in the top 10, but it has not been a Marquez-type season, and he's got high standards that, unfortunately, he has set for himself that he is trying to meet, and he's just not meeting it.
Yeah. We'll see. It's early in the season, and maybe he starts, you know, as you know, you get into race shape, maybe, you know, he'll kind of get things turned around. But it's definitely a concerning start to the season for him, you know, as far as championship points and momentum. You know, Bezzecchi doesn't seem like he'll get stopped eventually, obviously, but you know, someone needs to step up before he runs away with this thing. And I get also, we're 3 races into the season. It's very early to be talking about running away with the championship, but he doesn't look like he's going to be stopped.
I mean, the way Bezzecchi is riding, I think you can say a runaway is on offer. He's had his struggles in the sprints, but as far as the GPs are concerned, no one has been able to touch him so far. And yep. Aprilia, they brought a great bike to bear this season. Bezzecchi and Jorge Martin, who won the sprint. I don't know if you saw what happened at the end of the T-Salt sprint with Jorge Martin, though, when he was celebrating down the backstretch and dumped the bike.
Yep. Showboating. It'll get you every time. Well, not every time, but if you showboat, it will catch up to you eventually.
Yep. So Marc Marquez ended up finishing 5th highest of the Ducatis, and that just goes back to... No, I think... I think G. Antonio was highest of the Ducatis. Marquez was 5th, but he was highest of the Ducati Lenovo team bikes. And our lookup of the American bikes, Fernandez was the highest finisher of them, of the Trackhouse MotoGP team, finished in 8th spot. So MotoGP is heading off after their first 3 races of the season. They'll be heading over to Spain at the end of April for the Estrella Galicia Grand Prix of Spain. Then they'll be heading to France and Catalonia, which they'll be going back to Spain, just another part of Spain. That's a whole deal, by the way, with the northern part of Spain and southern part of Spain. They have beef, and it goes back generations. That is the easiest way to say about that. And it's gonna be some good racing, but somebody's got to catch Bisecchi, because right now he is pulling away from the field, and we hope Marc Marquez gets better and gets back into it, because this could be, the way it's going, his final season in MotoGP, because he is not signed for next season. He has been very clear that he is not going to make a decision for next season until he feels one way or the other whether he can or cannot go.
Yep. And Yamaha picked up some points, and they'll be desperate for just about anybody willing to drive their bikes next year. So anybody will be able to go. I could probably go get a ride there.
I think I could too. At this point, it's not been a great... They are still on the struggle bus over there at Yamaha, trying to get this new engine formula sorted. But speaking of engine formulas, we said we would give it the old college try. We said we would give it 3 races. It has now been 3 races, Chris. And I think we can say the super clipping is a gigantic issue.
Yeah. But let's start with earlier in the week, because I think it was on Wednesday. It's weird because obviously in Japan, Wednesday to us is actually Thursday to them. So I believe it was on Wednesday for us. They announced the qualifying procedure change where they reduced the maximum energy recharge per lap from 9 megajoules to 8. And this was to basically just stop the harvesting, or stop so much, which, one thought that I have is, why not let them get a full charge coming out of the pits? Because I don't think they come out of the pits with any charge. They start empty. So charge them full in the pits, and they cannot deploy until their lap. You know what I mean? Like, for qualifying, just let them go. I don't make them harvest energy on a out lap. That's ridiculous in my opinion. Let them come out of the pits with a full battery. But originally I had put, is this the FIA admitting, is this the closest we'll get to the FIA admitting they messed up? And then the weekend happened, and I deleted that little line right out of our show notes.
Yeah.
I ended up, I did all the show notes for today at like 1:00 this morning. I had some insomnia last night. So also apologies for any misspellings or things that don't make sense. But yeah, things need to change, which we can get into right now.
Yeah.
just read that yellow bar right across the top, Darryl, before you get started, please.
I read it when I came down here earlier, so I will try to stay off my soapbox tonight, even though you guys know how I am about racing and safety. Ollie Behrman almost died at the Japanese Grand Prix, and I don't think we're being over dramatic. Behrman had to take avoiding action around the spoon when battling Franco Colapinto, who ran out of battery and his car began super clipping. Behrman was on his overtake mode, was not super clipping. There was a 100-kilometer-an-hour difference between the two cars. Behrman got off the grass to try to avoid Colapinto, lost control, and had a 50G impact with the wall, similar to the cops crash with Max Verstappen a few years ago. Energy harvesting and super clipping, and the drivers called it out. It was going to create a point of danger. Even the drivers said in the interviews, I can't remember who said it, thank God this was at Suzuka and not Jeddah, because we would be talking about a much different accident if this had happened at Jeddah, because there was no runoff there and Behrman would have hit that wall a lot faster.
Or Miami or Las Vegas, any street circuit we go to, this would have been a completely different.
I shudder to think what's going to happen at Azerbaijan later this year.
Hopefully, we've got 5 weeks off. Hopefully, they figure something out in those 5 weeks.
I mean, they have to, because the bottom line is cars cannot be going 100 kilometers an hour slower than each other on tight circuits because they have to recharge a battery that they shouldn't be needing to recharge.
Correct.
And this goes into your guy, Max Verstappen, who all the way back in 2023 called this. He expressed serious reservations about the regulations. He was really the only driver at that time to talk about it. As we got closer last year, Lewis Hamilton and a few other drivers began to talk about it as well. And the FIA basically said SDFU and figure it out.
Yeah.
And then we are now here where the racing, there has been passing, but it has not been high quality passing.
It's been yo-yo.
It has been the yo-yo because of the batteries. They are having to delete comments off social media, which is always the great sign for a company if you have to delete comments on your social media post. And they've gone to the way of manipulating the video. Kimi Antonelli's qualifying lap, where he qualified on the pole, no onboard camera shot through 130R.
It worked everywhere else.
Worked everywhere else but 130R. Take from that what you will.
Yeah. And for anybody who doesn't know, that's just a pedal to the metal, literally balls out corner. That is very sketchy. You have to have a major set of cojones to take that at full speed. And there are 22 drivers in this series who take that thing at full speed.
Yes.
I won't even take it in full speed in Gran Turismo.
I haven't been able to take it full speed in the F1 game yet, but I'm trying. Yeah. So here's where we currently stand when it comes to Formula One. We're on a 5-week break because of the current war in Iran, with the cancellation of the Bahrain and Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. They're trying to bring Saudi Arabia back for the end of this season, but just to let you know on what's going on with Iran, there might be ground forces getting put in, so I would not be talking about any racing in the Middle East anytime soon. That is all I'm going to say about that. Max Verstappen and Formula One CEO Stefano Domenicali are scheduled to have a dinner soon to discuss the regulations. I wonder how that dinner is going to go. I hope they have some cameras there for Drive to Survive. And it is believed that Formula One is considering some serious changes to the regulations set after Japan. We've got a couple of realistic changes of our own. Chris, why don't you take us through those?
Yeah, so I think, and this is kind of like on our Twitter account, if you go through our replies, you'll see some engagement that I had with a couple other creators where we were kind of going back and forth on some different options on what would be realistic. And there's one guy who's significantly more knowledgeable about virtually everything engineering than me. But we were kind of kicking back and forth like a few different things. And um, so he kind of more narrowed it down to two options that I agree with. Option one would be to introduce a spec MGUH, um, which that was scrapped to entice new engine suppliers into Formula One. So really, the only way for that MGUH to work is to do a spec option, which is where Formula One would develop or hire out the development, um, and then the teams would be customers of that, basically. Like kind of
Fans
like,
would love that.
yeah. But this would be very expensive to develop because the engine manufacturers have their own proprietary engines. So a spec option really would not work. This would be relatively unfeasible realistically. But it's realistic. But at the same time, it's about one of two options there are to fix this. And then option two would be to, and this is something they could do virtually overnight, would be to just adjust the harvesting and deployment numbers. So if you could increase the amount of energy harvested by the MGUK, um, more energy, you could be harvesting more per lap. But if you also, and it's because they are capped. And so you are capped at what you can harvest per lap. But if you paired that up with a reduction of deployment where instead of, these guys, they deploy their energy and it's like, how many hundreds of horsepower is it instantaneously? It's a lot. It's 50%. But if you drop that down to where deployment was less powerful over a longer period of time, you wouldn't have that dramatic drop off in speed at the end of the straightaway. And you could make it track specific where in practice you have teams go out there and you adjust the ratios on the cars. And I feel like if you talk to the teams and said, hey, this is the only way we can do it, but you guys got to give us real data out of practice, out of FP1, we need the data to fine tune. And so that's something that they could realistically do tomorrow. So I think it's probably going to be option two, where they kind of adjust the ratio and the harvest and deployment numbers. That's the only.
So your only options at this point are to slow the cars down or develop a costly spec part that will piss off all of your fan base and probably not be ready in time to really do anything to save most of them.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Formula One. You are in the rock and hard place scenario that you should have known about in 2023.
Yeah, the data was there back in 23. Because like we said just a few minutes ago, Max already made these comments back in 23. You can trace them right back and go check it out. He already talked about too much electric, basically exactly what we're talking about now. He said back in 23. And in the statement by Formula One, they talked about having better data now and better simulator information. And, you kind of have to call that out because, again, back in 23, Max had already run the simulator. They already had enough data for him to call out exactly what's happening now. So the data's been here. So we'll see.
Well, the one thing I will say, and I got a lot of heat for this on our Twitter on Sunday, the V10 era is not going to save us. The V10 era was one of the worst eras for Formula One, to the point it almost broke the sport. The cars were too big, the engines were too reliable, and we're not even going to talk about what happened at the United States Grand Prix because we'd be here all night. V whatever on sustainable fuels is not going to keep anybody but Ferrari or maybe Ford in the sport. Argue at the wall, that is the reality of what we're in.
The only thing you can say about the V10 era is the cars sounded good.
They sounded amazing. That's it.
That's, yeah. And you can tell just by the responses on Twitter, it's actually crazy. I didn't expect so many people to come defend your tweet because they've really started crawling out of the woodwork. And the amount of hate you get for pointing out to somebody that the engine, it's just like the NASCAR thing. People just equate bigger engines with a better racing product. But that's not the case. And, you know, especially with Formula One, with Drive to Survive, I mean, there are so many new fans that didn't live through that. And when you talk the V10 era, Darryl, I mean, we were kids. You know, we didn't even really understand the intricacies of what was happening, you know, fully anyway. We definitely understood the concepts and could recognize racing was boring, but you know, it really highlights this idea that if you don't know what you're talking about, you're better off just not saying something.
And I will tell you, as much as I want to say that the V10s were cool, they were only cool in sound. They weren't cool for anything else. Actually, the V10 era and a lot of the controversy in it is what kind of led to Ferrari and a bunch of the teams nearly breaking away in 2009 to start their own series. But that got tamped down and everybody stayed together, which caused its own problems. But
yep.
Yeah, we've got to really think within the box that we have and not really go back to box that there weren't. So for NASCAR, we're going to jump into this week our social media topic of the week, which is Justin Allgaier and whether or not he is a Hall of Famer. And we've actually got some divergent views on this. So this is our new topic that we'll be going through weekly. We'll be hitting the one topic relevant in the land of social media and give our takes on it. This week is NASCAR based by the way of Dirty Mo Media. Travis Rockhold argued that Justin Allgaier should not be in the NASCAR Hall of Fame due to his lack of resume in Cup. I have comments about that, but Chris, I'm going to let you start, and then I'm going to give the rebuttal.
Alrighty. So, personally, I stand with Travis Rockhold. As does Kenny Wallace. So Kenny, I was scrolling social media, and Kenny, in his very popular series that I watch as often as, like, I'll never scroll by it. I will always watch it, but it's Coffee with Kenny. He shared his views, and I think I agree with them kind of overall. I agree with him that the barrier for entry into the NASCAR Hall of Fame is lowering. But that's also, Darryl, something I kind of talked about with you. I think Hall of Fames in general, I'm just having some exhaustion with them. And it's nothing against Justin. You know, the NASCAR Hall of Fame was originally intended to be for the best of the best in the Cup Series. You know, and kind of going back to the Hall of Fame exhaustion, when you say we're going to induct X amount of people per year, inevitably you're going to run out of people who are truly deserving, and you're just going to have to start picking the next best. You know, think about it. Like, they induct, what is it, 5 people per year? Think about just the last 3 years. Is there 12 Hall of Fame people that you can think of in the last 3 years? And then add another 4 people next year and 4 people after that and 4 people after that, just looking at the current field. I think if we're talking about the current field of who's actively in racing right now, I think maybe you've got 5, but I could whittle that down.
So I disagree, and I'm going through the list of the Hall of Famers that is on the NASCAR Hall of Fame website. 2 of the people that jump to mind that are in the Hall of Fame that have nothing to do with the Cup Series are Jack Ingram and Jerry Cook. Jerry Cook is one of the kings of the modified series in NASCAR. Won 4 championships from 1974 to 1977. Won all of those consecutively. Herschel McGriff Jack Ingram won 5 championships in what is now the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. Won 3 consecutive championships from 1972 to 1974. Won titles in 1982 and 1985 in O'Reilly. He won 3 late model sportsman championships. At the end of the day, this was never about just the Cup Series. When they did the groundbreaking for this building, NASCAR said they wanted to tell the story of the entire sport. That's Cup, Truck, O'Reilly, Modifieds, even into the weekly series. There's so many people that have built this sport at all levels that need to be remembered and are being enshrined in the Hall of Fame. It was never just about Cup. Yes, a lot of the folks that got in, especially early, have been from Cup because it is the largest series. It is one of the longer running series. The modified series is actually the only one that's older. But you have Ron Hornaday Jr., who's destined to go in at some point. You've got Jack Sprague, who's actually on the list this year, who should get in. And you look at Justin Allgaier's credentials as a potential Hall of Famer. In the O'Reilly series, when he has run a full schedule, he has finished in the top 10 every year. In the playoff era, he went to the Final Four 7 times, including a championship. And I misspoke earlier. Ron Hornaday is in as a Truck Series driver from 2018. Justin Allgaier is one of the guys that when you talk about the O'Reilly Auto Parts series, you have to add his name in there because he has had such longevity in that class, and it is a series that he has made his home. Yes, he did not have good running in Cup, but he ran with H. Scott Motorsports. Who is taking H. Scott Motorsports to victory lane in NASCAR? Nobody, because the team isn't around anymore. That's how good that team was. So I can't judge Justin Allgaier and say he's not a Hall of Fame driver because the only opportunity he got at being a driver in Cup was with a team that was barely keeping the lights on. And to your point of Hall of Fame fatigue and inductee fatigue, NASCAR kind of saw that because after 2020, they went down from 5 individuals getting in to 3. And they broke them into categories. There is a landmark inductee, a legacy inductee, and a modern era inductee. I don't think it's perfect, but I think it's the best we're going to get with the amount of people that we need to put into the Hall of Fame because we started our Hall of Fame so late compared to other sports. This thing got started in 2010. You know, I was 20. I skipped a college class, sorry, mother, to watch that Hall of Fame be open. So we're trying to get caught up with everyone. And I think that Allgaier is a Hall of Famer because of what he has done in O'Reilly, because it is not a Hall of Fame just for Cup. I mean, Mike Stefanik, another guy who was a non-Cup driver, he was in the Modified Series, one of the 10 greatest drivers in Modifieds of all time, got in 2021 on the Legacy ballot. So this is going to be a conversation that's going to continue every week, and of course our future Hall of Famer picked up a win at Darlington, also ran well at Martinsville.
So with there being one modern era driver per year now, which now that you say that, I do remember that they do that now.
Yes.
Do you pick him to go in? Do you pick Allgaier over Kyle Larson?
It's going to depend on when they retire. Because I don't know how long Larson's going to be around and how long. Yeah,
or Kurt Busch. Or
Kurt's already in. Well,
Kurt's already in. Sorry, not Kyle.
Well, we know Kyle's going in. That's just unfair.
Yeah, but if you get one per year,
that's what's going to make it hard.
Do you think that having a championship automatically makes you Hall of Fame worthy?
It's more than the championship for Allgaier. I think it's his sustained success that I think gets him a Hall of Fame. I mean, Dale Jr. only won 2, at that time, Busch Series championships and is in the Hall of Fame based on what he did in Cup. He never won a championship in Cup. Mark Martin never won a championship, and he made it in.
Dale Jr. is one of those few people, though, that it doesn't matter. He's such an ambassador to the sport and such a historian and all around, probably the best thing that's realistically happened in NASCAR in decades, is his maturity into who he is today. I don't know that NASCAR is quite what it is today without Dale Jr.
No, it's not.
Maturing into what he is.
Yeah. I mean, Dale's done so much work for the good of the sport outside of it. I think it would be ridiculous not to put him in. Another good example, though, for this, like Davey Allison, unfortunately, he passed away. So we never got to see how good he was going to be. He finished 3rd in the championship in 1991 and 1992 before a helicopter crash took his life. And he was probably going to be better than Jeff Gordon, to be honest, with where his career was on. So I don't think necessarily a championship gets you in, but I think you have to. Can you tell the story of NASCAR without talking about this person? That's going to be the question. That's the question they ask when they go in to do the voting. It's going to be even harder now that you've got 3 spots instead of 5.
Yeah.
And an interesting question for that is going to come up because we have Greg Biffle and Kevin Harvick that are on the ballot this year. Harvick does have a Cup championship to go with his now O'Reilly Auto Parts Series championships. Biffle won a truck and an O'Reilly Auto Parts championship, got a best finish of 2nd in Cup, and Biffle recently passed away in a plane crash in December. That might give him a sentimental bump as well. But that is a conversation that is going to have to happen with this Hall of Fame, is how do you weight everybody?
Yeah. And the thing is, and I hate to be that person, but Biffle will probably get it because of what happened.
Yeah. And we're not going to complain.
On merit, Kevin Harvick over him personally. Yeah. But
it's either going to be Harvick or Biffle, I think, on that one. I would not be surprised if it's either of them.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
It's going to be a conversation that's going to go on the more Allgaier wins and works his way up that wins list, because he's now tied for 6th in the all-time wins list in Xfinity, O'Reilly Auto Parts competition.
Swear jar.
So we'll head on. The investigation into the Bathurst crash earlier this year is now complete. Chris, why don't you take us through it and what has come from that investigation?
Yeah. So Motorsport Australia has completed their investigation into the Ralph Aaron and Johann Zelger crash that occurred on the run to Forest Elbow at the Bathurst 12-hour earlier this year. The Motorsport Risk and Safety Committee is meeting shortly, and it's Australia. So when I say shortly, I mean like they could be meeting now, but definitely in the next couple hours because it is morning there. And they're going to determine whether or not to accept the findings of the investigation, which I think is a really weird statement to make. But I am just interpreting the press release. So the findings are said to include a detailed process improvements to make Mount Panorama a safer circuit. Personally, I hope that they implement the super yellow that was recommended by Ryan McLeod, who he's a Bathurst veteran and has seen more than his fair share of horrible accidents, which does include Mark Porter's fatality. And actually, Darryl, if you want to read about someone who is blessed and cursed at Bathurst, just read up on all the accidents that Ryan McLeod has been on track for, but hasn't been a part of.
Okay.
There's like a dozen, and they are all like wild. So note to self, if Ryan McLeod is running Bathurst, do whatever, get yourself some food poisoning or something. You don't want to get on that track.
Fake an injury, do something. Do not be on the track when he's out there.
Yeah. So the super yellow that he has proposed would have 3 or 4 consecutive flag points wave the yellow to indicate a caution ahead. Now, the way that Mount Panorama works is it follows precedent at other tracks as well, is where every flag stand is within sight of the next flag stand. Mm-hmm. So when you're driving on the track at all times, you should see at minimum 1 flag stand. And so right now there's actually no rule that says X amount of flag stands have to be waving a flag. So the super yellow would have 3 or 4 consecutive flag points wave a yellow flag to indicate a caution ahead. And the reason this is because typically the cars, and this is kind of messed up, but typically the cars that are following directly behind an accident tend to make it through. And it's that second wave of cars that's like 5 to 10, 15 seconds back. They make high-speed impacts. And so the first wave gets through fine. And it's that second wave who would, if there were a couple flag stands ahead of time telling them there's danger ahead, they would have enough time to get slowed down. But because they don't have that advanced notice, they don't know that they're coming up on an accident. And with that run down to Forest Elbow, that corner is completely blind. So you had a car coming around that corner, and that corner not only is probably close to 90 degrees, but it's also a significant elevation drop, and it's almost like Laguna Seca, but not quite that drastic. But it's blind, and that car came through at a really high rate of speed. And Ralph Aaron, he has a broken back as a result of that accident. So this weekend is the High Tech Oils Bathurst 6 hours. So it's a lot of people are hopeful that any changes adopted as a result of the investigation into the 12 hours can be implemented before the event this weekend. And like I said, The meeting is probably happening within the next couple hours. So while we are asleep tonight here in the U.S., there's probably going to be a media release on the investigation. So if you're not already following Apex to Asphalt on X, give us a follow and just check your feed in the morning, because if a decision is publicized, we'll retweet it and get the news out there, and kind of see what happens as a result of this investigation.
And hopefully it makes a safer Bathurst for everyone, because we do not want to see anyone get hurt on what is one of the world's greatest race courses. So we're going to wrap up tonight with a preview of the upcoming Amsoil Snowcross finale. The battle for the championships is on, except for the women's Pro-Am, where we know who's going to win that one. 14-year-old rookie Avery Hemmer clinched the championship. She's won 11 races on the season out of a possible 14. Current record for most wins in a season is 12. It is very simple. She wins on Friday or Saturday, she ties the record. She sweeps the weekend, she breaks the record. We are pulling for the record for Avery Hemmer going into this weekend in women's Pro-Am. Chris, what is the Pro Light Championship looking like?
So Cameron Cole is entering Duluth with a virtually insurmountable lead over second place Evan Christian. Cam only needs to score 25 total points this weekend to clinch. And so he has 531 points. If you break that down into, so the way Snowcross works is they race Fridays and Saturdays. So if you go points per day, he averages 37.9 points per day. So all he needs is 25 over the whole weekend to clinch the championship. And just looking at the averages and how he's coming into the weekend, I think he gets it done. And I think that Cameron Cole is your 2026 Pro Light Division champion. How about the pros?
In the pro category, the championship is coming down to Creighton Dillon, Jordan LaBelle, and Daniel Benheim. Emil Haar and Gustav, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, Salston are technically still capable of winning the championship. They would need an act of God or some sleds to not show up for them to win that championship. And all of this will be decided Friday, April 3rd and Saturday, April 3rd for rounds 15 and 16th of the season at Spirit Mountain in Duluth, Minnesota. Women's Pro-Am is exciting, but already decided. Pro Lights are statistically going to be decided by Friday evening, but the pros are going to be decided by the checkered flag on Saturday's main. If you've got Flow Racing, make sure you check it out. It starts at 3 p.m. Eastern on Friday. Click it on and have it on all day as the snowmobiles come to an end this winter.
And it is an all-day event.
Now. Yes.
Because they get the kids out there on the 120cc's. I mean, it is if you click in at 3 o'clock, you genuinely have 6 hours of on-track action. Like I said, they got like the 5-year-old kids out there on the 120cc's, and these kids are just ripping. They might be more fun than the adults to watch. But they got tons of categories, and the on-track action, they take like 10 minutes between rounds to get things sorted out. So definitely check out the season finale at Spirit Mountain in Duluth, because it will be an exciting end to the season.
Yeah, they've got a lot of racing that's not even televised on Thursday, where there's a lot of the kids. It's basically Kids Day.
Yeah.
Racing on Thursday.
Yep. So I'm excited for the season to end, to see, what happens, especially with the pro category, but I'm also sad because it's such a short season. We get 8 race weekends, and it just goes by so quick.
So let's get into drivers of the week as we say good evening for this episode. And both of ours comes from Monster Energy Supercross competition. Mine is Ken Roxon. He put on a show on Saturday night, reinserting himself into this 450 Supercross championship. Chris, who did you have?
250 East. I picked Cole Davies. And it's just because, quite literally, he's the best whoop blitzer on the planet right now. And he's definitely been picking up some momentum as well. So he entered the season with 250 win, and now he's up to like 6. So definitely have to go with Cole Davies.
Gotta love Cole Davies. He's a man after my own heart when it comes to those whoop sections. He still hits them like they used to do in the 90s, gliding over the top of them.
Yep.
And that
pin and pray.
All start. Yep. So we have a very light calendar for motorsports this weekend, with it being the Easter holiday. A lot of championships are taking the weekend off. As we said, Amsoil Snowcross will be on for the National at Spirit Mountain, Duluth, Minnesota, 3 p.m. on Flow Racing on Friday and Saturday. On Friday will be the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series Black's Tire 200, 4:30 p.m. You can watch that on FS1. And Saturday will be the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts O'Reilly 250 at Rockingham. That'll be at 2:30 p.m. on the CW. I want to thank you all for listening. Hope you enjoyed us getting back to our roots. We're talking about the stories of the week and not just regurgitating what happened during the race. Thank you so much for Freddie B of the Raceless podcast for joining us. Make sure you interact with us on the Twitter this week. We had a lot of great interaction this weekend, and you'll know if I'm running the Twitter account because I like to stir the pot just a little bit. Chris, tell them what they need to do tonight.
Get a good night's sleep. So many different things I could say, especially with it being Easter and cleanliness is godliness or something. I'm not really religious.
Cleanliness is next to godliness. Yeah, I've heard.
Cleanliness is next to godliness. So don't forget to brush those teeth before you go to bed tonight.
Good night, everybody. This has been Apex to Asphalt. For Chris, I'm Darryl. Thank you so much. See you next week.